What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports here, and the following footage that you are about to be listening to and watching has come from the JT Sports Weekly Podcast. Make sure that you guys click the links down in the description to listen to the JT Sports Weekly Podcast, available on all podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Also, make sure if you're able to leave a 5-star review, and also make sure that you like and share the video. And enjoy. What is up, everybody? It's JT Sports and Match you guys with another video. In this video, I'm here with my guy, NMD TV. NMD TV, how's it going on, man?
Man, it's doing good. I'm doing good out here. Glad to be on.
So, in this video, us being Miami Hurricane fans, I want to talk about why the Miami Hurricanes are the biggest boom or bust team going into this upcoming college football season. So, you know the Hurricanes pick up D'Eriq King in the transfer portal, get Rhett Lashlee, the takeover at the offensive coordinator position over Dan Enos. So, I mean, is it fair to call the Miami Hurricanes a boom or bust team this year? Because look, as Hurricane fans, we've seen this team have some great seasons like 2017 with Mark Richt, and then we see this team really hit the fan like last year getting blown out by Louisiana Tech. So, I mean, is it fair to call the Miami Hurricanes the biggest boom or bust team in college football?
I don't know if you want to call it a boom or bust, but I think to the fan base, when you read what the fan base is thinking, I think it has to be either you win the conference, you either win 10 games, or nothing else is acceptable. Because when you look at what they did, you mentioned a lot. They bring in Rhett Lashlee for the offense. They bring in Gary Justice for the offensive line. You bring in D'Eriq King, a quarterback that scored about 60 touchdowns in a season a couple seasons ago, a dynamic quarterback. You bring in Quincy Roche, who was the AAC Defensive Player of the Year, double-digit sacks. Gregory Rousseau, who's projected to be a top 10 draft pick in the mock drafts that are out. You have all that on a team that's going to be facing not great competition. You look at their schedule, they're playing Temple, they're playing Michigan State. So I don't know if it's boom or bust, but I can tell you right now that if Miami doesn't win about 10 games, the fan base won't be happy at all, because you look at the roster, you look at how everything's set up, and Miami should win a lot of games next year.
So 10 games off the bat. That's the expectations that you have for the Hurricanes this year, right?
Yes, I would say so. And I know a lot of people are going to go crazy and say, well, Miami Hurricanes fans, they say this every year. And I agree with you. I do think, I love the Miami Hurricanes, but I also look at them fairly and I judge them fairly. And I wouldn't be saying this if we had a tough non-conference schedule. You look at this schedule, and it's literally cupcake. You look at the players added to this team, and you look at how games were lost last year. Games were lost because of extra point here or extra point there. A lot of people want to look at it as it was just a horrible season from start to finish, and it was. But when you really look into the games and you see that, the Virginia Tech game, we missed the extra point, and that takes everybody out. You look at the Florida game, a drop catch by Jeff Thomas, and then also a mixed extra point. We were in those games, and now if you tell me that you add a dynamic player like D'Eriq King, and then you add Quincy Roche, and not to mention the recruiting class, I think that's not unreasonable to think that Miami's going to take a step forward next year. And if we don't, that's when problems would occur.
And the quarterback play over the last couple of years, ever since Brett Kaya left, hasn't really been all that great. Like, even when Miami won 10 games with Malik Rozier, I mean, it wasn't pretty. It was basically the defense, and Malik Rozier was able to hit some big throws down the stretch. But this is probably the best quarterback Miami has had in a while. Would it be fair to say that D'Eriq King is probably the best quarterback Miami has had in the last decade? Or do you think Brett Kaya could, maybe be a little bit better than D'Eriq King?
Well, I don't want to take anything from Brad Kaya, because what I want to say about Brad Kaya is he did it on the field. He put up those big numbers. He was a good quarterback at Miami. D'Eriq King has a chance to be one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen at Miami. But my motto for this season is I gotta see it to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it on paper, it looks good, it looks nice. But honestly, you can make anything look good on paper.
Yep.
And I think when you look at D'Eriq King's film, he is a dynamic player. I keep saying it. He can run it. He can throw it. He is going to make every defensive coordinator say, okay, we have to shut this guy down. Also with Brett Lashley's offense. But it's easier said than done. So we've got to see it done. And I don't want to crown D'Eriq King until he puts on that Miami Hurricanes jersey and he gets it done.
Yeah, man. So for those of you guys, make sure that you guys check out my guy NMD TV. He uploads college football videos, NFL videos, all kinds of sports content. So I mean, going into this season, Manny Diaz is going into year 2. Now, over the last couple of spans of Miami Hurricanes coaches, we've seen coaches start out slow, but coaches always take that big, giant leap year in their second year. And this is going back to Al Golding. This is going back to Mark Richt. Every Miami Hurricanes coach that we've had over the last couple of seasons has always taken a giant step year 2. So going into year 2 for Manny Diaz, I mean, what makes Manny Diaz a better coach this year than what he was last season?
Well, what I'm hoping is experience. I think last year was tough. It was horrible. But I'm hoping that Manny Diaz learned from what happened last year. And now, he was a rookie head coach. And now he has a year underneath his belt, and now he can get things down. Now, another thing I think that will help him is we hired Gary Justice, who used to be an offensive coordinator. We hired Rob Likens from Arizona State, who used to be an offensive coordinator. And then we brought in Rhett Lashley, who was the offensive coordinator for SMU. SMU last year had one of the best offenses, putting up over 40 points a game, did great things at SMU. They ain't seen nothing like that at SMU until Rhett Lashley got there. So you brought 3 offensive coordinators and you have them on the staff. Now I think Manny Diaz can talk to those guys and they can bounce ideas off of them. And also, Ed Reed is going to be on staff as the chief of staff. So I look at you bringing in 3 brilliant minds. I look at you bringing in a Hall of Famer. And I'm hoping that by you bringing in those guys, that experience, Manny Diaz can learn from his own mistakes, but also bounce off ideas off the guys that we hired, and of course the Hall of Famer Ed Reed. Now, again, because I really want to put this through every Miami Hurricanes fan mind, and I want this to be said. Everything I just said, it looks good on paper, but we got to see, will the coaching staff gel? Will the players respond to the coaching staff? We got to see it done. So everything that's good on paper right now, when the ball kicks off and bullets start to fly, as they say, will everything run smoothly? And I think to answer your question, I think you look at the experience, you look at the people that he brings in around him, I think that's what we can expect. That's why we can expect Manny to improve next year.
So one of my last closing questions is, so we know last year the offensive line was a big reason why the Miami Hurricanes kind of disappointed everybody last year. I mean, the offensive line wasn't really all that great. So what are some major improvements to the offensive line? Like, are there some big position battles that's going to be going on? Are there some impact players that Miami has brought in? What's going to make the offensive line better compared to what it was last season? Because I don't think the offensive line should be at least as bad as what it was last season, because last season was absolutely terrible.
So the first thing is you bring in Rhett Lashley, okay? So Rhett Lashley's offense is meant to get the ball out fast. So if you have an offense that's going to get the ball out quickly instead of 5- and 6-step drops, instead of long delay play actions and things like that, then your offensive line is going to like that a lot more. Secondly, you bring in D'Eriq King. Last year, our quarterbacks were sitting ducks. That's just the bottom line. They got feasted on. D'Eriq King, if you dare just rush him, he's going to have the ability to juke you and take it to the house. There's a play I tried to remember what game it was, but it's slipping my mind right now. But I'm watching this film, and they bring a safety blitz up the middle, and the safety has a beeline for D'Eriq King. D'Eriq King jukes him and takes it to the house. So they're going to have to spy D'Eriq King. So when you have to take a defender to spy D'Eriq King, that keeps you from blitzing as much, which will help the offensive line. Now, as for position battles, we still got to find a solid 5. Newcomers, you're looking at Jalen Rivers, who could come in and I think possibly compete. You're looking at us starting 2 freshman tackles last year that's going to have another year underneath their belt. So that's why I think things will improve. Mainly is because of the experience in the offense and because you have an X factor like D'Eriq King at the quarterback position.
Okay, everybody, that's my guy, NMD TV. NMD TV, thank you for coming on, man. And for those of you guys who haven't subscribed to my guy already, make sure you guys subscribe to NMD TV. NMD TV, man, let the people know what podcast platforms you got, what social media platforms you got, all that good stuff, and where the people can find you at.
Yeah, you can find all my stuff is just at NMD TV. Just type in NMD TV, and you will see a couple channels pop up. Take a look at those. If it's something that you like, consider subscribing. And then also you can find me on Twitter at Grant Long with 3 G's, LONGGG, and then at NMD TV, also my Instagram. So, JT, I want to thank you for having me on. And if you listen to this, I appreciate you guys listening to me and my opinion.
Thank you for coming on, man. Take care.